How are you, ladies and gentlemen? Good evening. It's Wednesday, January the 28th, and I'm Irv Homer, and we are live for 1 hour tonight. We invite your phone calls at 215-253-8877. You can get on our chat room, and that is available for your comments, questions, or information that you can tell me something that I don't know. Please, the only requirement of this program is not to be a stupid ass and ask dumb questions that I've covered before. I don't have the patience, the time, or the desire to deal with ignorance. I really don't. However, there are so many things that we have to cover. And I think that we will now, if you are interested to become a member of Phi Beta Boobus, if you feel that you are, and many of you are boobuses, not listening to this program, but some are, we're going to start in the near future to give you a degree from the Grand Poobah, Irv Homer. And you will be a graduate of the fraternity called Phi Beta Boobus. So here is the degree that you will receive. If you think you are a boobus, please just send a request with an address and we'll mail it to you. I am outraged. I am so pissed that I don't know where to start this program. I really don't. Because what has been going on in the past few days is just absolutely so mind-boggling that I am frustrated beyond belief. So I hope I am coherent enough and plain enough to explain to you folks why I feel the way I do. I'll start with an article of misinformation. Misinformation or disinformation or news by omission. The whole question of closing Guantanamo Bay under the Barack Obama administration has come under attack by saying, what are we going to do with the 240 some prisoners that are there? And just remember, we released one of them, and now he is the number 2 man in Yemen. And see what happens when you release these terrorists from Gitmo. Logical explanation by the bloviator nitwits like Limbaugh and Smerconish and Giordano and the Medved and the other half-assed people that are supposed to be doing talk radio. And a lot of folks are outraged. They released this guy from Guantanamo Bay, and see, he became the number 2 man in Yemen, now leading Al-Qaeda. There was a gentleman on the air for years by the name of Paul Harvey. Paul was unique in doing a program called But Here's the Rest of the Story. So I will plagiarize the idea of Paul Harvey tonight on this particular story and tell you the rest of the story of this alleged terrorist that was released from Gitmo and is now the second highest command of Al-Qaeda in the country of Yemen. This man, by definition of army intelligence, of all of those who questioned him, from all of those who imposed every type of means other than torture to get information from him, in checking his records, not only in the United States once they brought him here, but in the history of him, was shown that he had no connections whatsoever with any terrorist organization. He was rounded up in a swoop, as they did, and they stuck 800 and some people into Guantanamo, and he was investigated with a clear record that nowhere, anywhere in the world, including his family's history, was this man involved in terrorism, in 9/11, anything to do with anything that would harm or injure the United States, either here in the United States or abroad. What turned him into an Al-Qaeda was the fact that he was held without trial for 4 years, charged with nothing, tried his best to have an attorney represent him to prove his innocence. His family had money to spend overseas in sending document after document of verification that he was not involved in any way at all with terrorism against the United States. And so upon review, the monitor, Ron, went to Windows.
It's okay. I'll fix it.
And so he was released. In interviews that were conducted by this man in Yemen, by the British reporter and a French reporter, that's better, he said that without reservation he was innocent, he had no qualms of evil against the United States, Western society, was not a fundamentalist Muslim, but because of the treatment he received in Guantanamo Bay, he, in his own way, decided to fight back and became a member of Al-Qaeda. And so the Bloviators, the Limbaugh brains, the Medved brains, the Smirkanish brain, and the Giordano brain all jumped on the man. You see what happens when you release the terrorists? They go right back to causing terrorism. Why don't you lying bastards tell the whole truth about the number 2 man of Al-Qaeda in Yemen? You're afraid to embarrass your ignorance and stupidity in major market radio stations? Are your bosses, is the media that corrupt and not much of a whore that you can't tell the truth or tell the rest of the story? Well, that is the real story, ladies and gentlemen. You can check it out yourself if you get off your ass and do some private investigating, as I do and as my son Ron helps me with. We're broadcasting from irvhomer.com. My website is www.irvhomer.com. You can email me at evilirv@irvhomer.com. For all your computer services, check out the website of RGH Systems at www.rghsystems.net. And what we have, ladies and gentlemen, today in the media, both in the so-called drive-by media and in this so-called alternative information media, is a bunch of damn liars telling half-truths, misinformation and disinformation, and the general public is buying it. The general public are the people who do not listen to this program or ever hear of this program. But eventually the truth will get out of the parking lot. You know what they say? A lie will go around the world 10 times before the truth gets out of the parking lot. Well, remember that the guy that is the number 2 head of Al-Qaeda in Yemen has been vetted by American intelligence, British intelligence, French intelligence, was never a member, never supported, never contributed any charity of any terrorist organization against the United States or Spain or Britain in the subway bombing there, the train bombing in Spain, but was convinced that we're doing something wrong in our intelligence and punishing innocent people. Now, in the hysteria of 9/11, a lot of errors have been committed. But they were committed with the acquiescence of nitwit America, boobus America, who wanted to arrest everybody in the world instead of going after the real terrorists. Which leads me to believe the next part of the Irv Homer Show. Zawahiri and Osama bin Laden are still loose. The Bush administration, with all of its homeland security and international terrorism and all that crap, can't find them. And so Michael Smirkanish, who was about to become syndicated like the rest of the damn liars, half-truth sayers, had a crusade that Pakistan is receiving $10 billion and we can't go into Pakistan and we should go in there and our predators are bombing them and Pakistan objects and blah, blah, blah. And he's been ranting and raving. Well, through some quirk of fate, he had the opportunity to interview for 40 minutes the former president of Pakistan, Yusuf Musharraf. And Musharraf put him in short pants. I do congratulate Michael for having the interview played on his program this morning. But it showed conclusively that he didn't know what the hell he was talking about. And Musharraf answered every question that he posed to him without reservation even to the point where Michael was apologizing for asking such cruel questions, such forthright questions. What happened to $10 billion? What happened that you can't go in there and get Al-Qaeda? Well, Musharraf explained to him the problems of the tribal lords and the divisiveness of Pakistan, that no deal had ever been made between the Pakistani government and the warlords to leave Osama bin Laden Mushari alone. And if that doesn't convince the listeners of the Shmerkanish program once and for all that he's a horse's ass, nothing will. But now he is going to be syndicated across the dials, and you're going to listen to the same half-truth and bullshit that you listened to with Rush Limbaugh. These people on radio and television have no shame anymore. And Boobus America that listens to them without reservation is the reason the country's in the shape that it's in today. You don't do your homework. And so you follow blindly these prophets on radio and prophets on television. The biggest one is the big phony that Barack Obama is now challenging, that he doesn't know what the hell he's talking about, and that is Rush Limbaugh. And Limbaugh is taking as a badge of honor. Well, Limbaugh, you jackass, you lost your television program. Your credibility with the National Football League went down the drain when you took on Donovan McNabb. Your lousy program couldn't influence the people to vote for your candidates. You voted and disliked John McCain as a Republican. And now that Barack Obama's in there, you're blaming the Democrats. Well, blame the stupid damn Republicans. Not that the Democrats are any better. But you Republicans screwed up so bad. The unmitigated gall in the House of Representatives today for the likes of John Boehner, Mitch McConnell, Dan Burton, to criticize the bailout of Barack Obama when you bastards for 8 years bankrupted this country with a damn war that you knew you couldn't win. The Republicans for 8 years under the Bush administration pissed away billions and billions and billions of dollars with cost overruns, no contract bids, Halliburton, Brown and Root, 160,000 civilian employees in Iraq and Afghanistan, and you haven't won a damn thing other than buying allegiance in those two countries. And the Republicans have the unmitigated damn gall to say that the Democrats want to spend money frivolously, and some boobus asshole Americans are buying that. Even the Republican Party during the 8 years of the Bush administration criticized the spending of money, taxpayers' money, on this war. Who in the hell in the history of this country ever fought a war and reduced taxes? Who? How the hell do you reduce taxes during a war when you're spending billions and billions of dollars in not only building up our military and destroying trucks and Humvees and fighter planes and helicopters? Not only that, as Mashar pointed out, but replacing the equipment that the Pakistanis, who are our allies, were expending, and they are a poor country, and so we replace their helicopters and their Hummers and their Humvees and their tanks and everything else to continue the fight as an ally of ours. Did the idiots of this country ever take a look at the topography of Afghanistan? Do you know that there is not one railroad in Afghanistan in the whole country because it is impossible to have transportation with trains? They use jackasses even today to get into those mountains and get into those hills with those tribal warlords. Do you know the topography of Pakistan? And do you know what it is like to deal when you've got warlords with an allegiance not only to their tribes because of religious differences, but the total support that they give to Osama bin Laden? Smirkanis don't give a crap about the facts. All he knows is, I got a big list in the audience with the book club and all this other bullshit. Self-aggrandizing pompous ass that he became. And now they're going to make this idiot a syndicated broadcaster. Well, he wanted to get Mosharraf on his debate. I want you to come here, Michael, and debate me. You made your whole damn career on a dead police officer, Danny Faulkner. And if you're so damn good, how come Mumi Abu Jamal is still alive and your career is dying? You lied to the audience when you said it was the politicians and the judges that are keeping Mumi alive, but you never mentioned the fact that the whores that are in your business, the lawyers who are his defense lawyers, kept him alive because the prosecution, like you, Michael, couldn't get enough to convict him to be executed. That his boobus followers don't ever ask him. Michael, it was lawyers, defense lawyers, who were far superior to the prosecutors that couldn't get him executed, so he's still alive today. When the hell are you American people going to wake up to the real facts of life, is what I'd like to know. The Republican Party is in a mess. The Republican Party, the Democrats didn't win the election with Barack Obama. You horse's-ass Republican conservatives, fundamentalists, gave the election with McCain and Sarah Palin, that frivolous bimbo from Alaska that was your idol. You gave the Democrats the election, and now you're screaming that the Democrats are spending too much money, they're irresponsible, that it's not going to bail us out, ba 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 ba. Question on our chat room. Irv, why in the hell would Obama even acknowledge Rush? Indirectly, he referred to him and acknowledged him because he is a force to be dealt with, a minor force. But how much crap can you take from this OxyContin drug addict? And realizing that Obama won, Bill. He's the president. And Rush Limbaugh and the other insanity nitwits on radio would like to see him fail. Oh, they come up with this crap. We really don't have anything personally against Barack Obama. We're just against his policies. Really? Who the hell are you kidding, Rush? And who the hell are these nitwits kidding? And I guarantee you that Limbaugh's career is limited now because of the licensing of the stations that he's on. Radio stations are going to start dropping Limbaugh like a hot potato because they don't want their license challenged. When he loses his syndication because stations are going to start dropping him because Barack Obama is the president, whether Limbaugh or the Republicans like it. He is the president. We're in for some damaging times. And to criticize the Republicans for meeting with Barack Obama in a financial seminar that was held today at 12 o'clock in the White House, what's the matter? You afraid the Republicans may get some damn sense and realize they made a mistake, Rush? And you dumb ditto heads that follow him? If you're going to set an example, set an example. But don't set an example as a drug user. Don't set an example for family values when you don't have a child, Limbaugh. You never fostered one. What's the matter? Is your sperm too damn weak? You haven't even got a wife that's stuck with you. I think you're on your third one now. Well, let me tell you something, my dear friend Limbaugh. If you want to attack the President of the United States, I'll attack you. And you're a damn sight more vulnerable than I am. Yeah, you may be a big man, Rush. You may have millions of dollars, but that don't mean crap to me because you take your pants off and poop the same as I do. And it stinks just as bad. The only trouble is you got more stink coming out of your mouth than you do out of your ass. That's just for openers, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Irv Homer. We've given you a little bit of the disinformation on the second leading Al-Qaeda man in Yemen. Completely vetted, completely examined, foreign records. Nothing proved that this guy had ever been involved in terrorism or contributed to any charity in any way whatsoever. And that's the name of that tune. Our next question. We have a chat room available for you for your questions. Our telephone number, if you care to call, is 215-253-8877. I'm outraged as hell tonight for the attack of the horse's ass Republican Party who blew this election. You don't even have a damn leader. Your leaders have all been thrown the hell out of Congress. Trent Lott lost his superiority because he's a liar. Newt Gingrich shacking up with a broad while his wife's laying in a hospital with cancer. These were your leaders. Now you don't have any, and you're blaming the Democrats. The twisted, convoluted logic of the horse's ass Republican Party, of which I am a card-carrying member. I'm a registered Republican. Who I voted for is none of your damn business. But the Republican Party deserves what it got. And don't blame the Democrats. And don't blame Barack Obama. Blame yourselves. Look in the mirror and you'll see the horse's ass there that the Republican Party in America is. Limbaugh screamed against John McCain and wondered why Barack Obama got elected. That's what type of horse's ass he is and what type of horse's ass listeners he has. Just mind-boggling. Question on our chat room. Doesn't Obama give the neocon windbags 4 more years to spread their hatred? What do you mean, does he give them? As long as they're on the air, they'll be the windbag that'll spread their hatred for 4 more years. The problem is, my dear friend, is when you've got an ignorant audience. Even Hitler had an audience. And you saw what happened to Germany. Stalin had an audience, and look what happened to Russia. Castro had an audience, and look what happened to Cuba. Ahmadinejad has an audience, and look what happened to Iran. And speaking of Iran, let me tell you something. I got to get this off my shoulders. I don't give a rat's ass what happens after this program tonight. This damn idiot Medved and people like him, who is syndicated also, the voice of intelligent conservative talk bullshit, called Ahmadinejad, what the hell did he call him? Ahmadinejad case. Well, you may think, Mr. Medved, that Ahmadinejad is a crazy, is a nutcase, you make fun of him. Well, let me tell you something, you yellow-bellied coward, sniveling shithead that never served in the military or had your ass shot at or killed anybody. I remember during World War II they were making fun of Adolf Hitler and Benito Mussolini and the Emperor of Japan, Tojo. Well, Medved, let me tell you something, you horse's ass. You sit on a radio station and shoot your mouth off with an empty damn head thinking you're superior to everybody else. While Ahmadinejad is the head of a country with a nuclear bomb. Now, Michael, can you match that? He may be a nutcase by your definition. Hitler may have been a nutcase by the world's definition. Stalin may have been a nutcase by the world definition. Tojo may have been a nutcase. We referred to the Japanese, them little gooks. Remember them little black guys in Vietnam in black pajamas? Did we ever kick their ass? No! And until we realize that we've got a real enemy, and it's not a joke that Ahmadinejad is there, Medved, you horse's ass. He may pose a threat to this country as Hitler did. And when I was being shot at in an airplane 30,000 feet over Germany, I didn't think Hitler was a comedian. When I was dropping bombs on Linz, Austria, and Oberpfaffenhofen in Germany, and Polesti oil fields, I didn't think there was a damn thing funny about Adolf Hitler, you horse's ass. And if Ahmadinejad ever drops a nuclear bomb on Israel or on the United States, you won't think he's very goddamn funny either, will you? And I am tired of this crap, of thinking all the leaders of these so-called enemies of the United States are crazy people. Well, they're so damn crazy, they're smart enough to be able to lead these countries in which we almost crap ourselves at the very mention of their name. You don't have to respect Ahmadinejad. You don't have to respect Jong of North Korea. You don't have to respect them. But don't think they're crazy because they're not. They've got the power over the people that you don't have. You got a lousy radio station that may have 5 million listeners. They only control countries with millions of people in them. That's more than you horses' asses do. So when you hear these clowns like Michael Medved or Limbaugh or Hannity making fun of these people, just remember these people is the reason that we need a military as strong as it is to protect us against them. We don't need a military to protect us against Rush Limbaugh. We don't need a military to protect us against Michael Medved. We don't need a military to protect us against the Smirkanishes. We need a military to protect us against these so-called crazy people that these idiots are trying to demean on radio and television, making you think, they're only nothing. Ahmadinejad, he's a crazy guy. Hitler was a crazy guy. Mussolini was a crazy guy. Tojo was a crazy guy. Them little people under Ho Chi Minh in the black pajamas. Sure, we kicked the crap out of Iraq. Did they have an Air Force? No. Did they have a Navy? No. Germany had a Navy. Germany had an Air Force. And we lost a lot of men. You know why we lost 4,000 men and not more? What would have happened if Saddam Hussein would have put an Air Force up comparable to ours? Or a Navy that went after our ships as the Japanese did? Jesus Christ, don't you people know anything? Are these people that damn dumb that they can't see what the hell is going on? We can't beat a bunch of goddamn tag. And yes, I'm mad. I don't give a crap whether you like it or not. Turn the damn dial, turn your computer off. I couldn't care less. Shut up, Sandy. You're going back in the garage. So these people are not crazy. And don't ever underestimate the power of the enemy of this country. Or your enemy at any time. When I heard that, I almost hit a tree today. They just did a review, ladies and gentlemen. Maybe you can get a world perspective from this program and understand things a little bit more than the parochial thinking of being an American. I fought for this country for over 29 months. I served it honorably. I would do it again. But when I criticize this country or the people of this country, mostly the people of this country for being on horses' asses, I do it because I want to save the country that I fought for and a lot of you guys fought for. They finally decided under this new administration in Russia to tally up the actual war dead of Russians in World War II, which they never did. Yes, we fought World War II and we lost a lot of men. In the Pacific, lost a lot of men in Europe. But we were not bombed on our continental United States. We lost more people at 9/11. That's the win, Shana. Than we lost in the United States during World War II. Do you have any idea the number of civilians and soldiers that the Russians lost in World War II? And maybe if you find out and did a little research and getting your ass out of American thought and study the rest of the world, maybe at that point, ladies and gentlemen, you'll be able to figure out and understand international politics a lot better. Russia lost 7 million servicemen, direct combat soldiers. They lost 21 million civilians. I repeat, 7 million servicemen, not counting equipment, the scorched earth policy of Adolf Hitler, the destruction of buildings, historical buildings that go back centuries in Russia, and in addition lost 20 million civilians, not counting the ones that Hitler placed in concentration camps and executed. Now the Israelis and Jews say never again. In America, after 9/11, when we lost 3,000 people, developed Homeland Security, employed 139,000 people for Homeland Security, checking all the ships that come into America. We only lost 3,000 people. Now, what do you think? What do you think we would be like if we lost 20 million civilians during World War II? Do you think we would think a little different than the Russians think? Why the Russians are concerned about world events, building up a strong military, looking for every possible way to prevent that from happening again on the continent of Europe and Asia? What would happen if New York City with 7 million people got wiped out? We'd surrender. We'd surrender. We're so damn scared over terrorism. We let this nutcase Bush and his administration go crazy with lies, deception, billions and billions of dollars breaking the country. Unless you decide to learn about the rest of the world, because we're in part of the globe. We are the globe. You're going to listen to these fatheads on radio and television and think you're so damn well informed that you know it all, and they know it all. It's a lot easier to sit on the outside like these Limbaugh nutcases and the Medved nutcases and criticize what's going on inside than it is to be in there yourself. And so you don't see these guys running for political office. If they're so brilliant, you would think they won. They couldn't influence this election. Do you think they would have been happier if McCain and Sarah Palin won? What would have been John McCain's answer to this financial mess, or Sarah Palin's? Why don't you get John McCain, Limbaugh, or Hannity, or Sarah Palin on the air? Since they wanted to be the president and vice president of the United States, why don't you get them on the air and let them offer a solution? Wouldn't that be good, folks? They were the loyal opposition of the Republican Party. Limbaugh, you got 15 hours a week to interview John McCain, and if McCain was so brilliant, you wanted him president of the United States, let him answer the prompt question. And Sarah Palin, get on television, get on the Good Morning. What is your solution as opposed to what Barack Obama is doing, other than sitting on your ass and letting these windbags speak for you? Did you lose your voice, John McCain? Did you lose your voice, Sarah Palin? If I had the answer to things, ladies and gentlemen, I demand of the Limbaughs to get on this program and explain my solution to the financial problem if I were the presidential candidate. You see, folks, how you're being manipulated? If you think Joseph Goebbels was a great propaganda minister of Germany, for those of you who are old enough to remember and the young of you who don't, then keep quiet. Don't display your ignorance by calling these nitwits. To the chat room we go. Irv, please comment on Ted Haggard, also a Republican preacher who regularly met with Bush, who was having homosexual affairs while he stood there preaching against liberals. Well, this is typical. I will comment on it. Ted Haggard is a sexual pervert by definition, as were many in the Bush administration. I have a whole list of them. Bob Barr licking whipped cream off the breast of a woman at a cocktail party. Bob Barr was one of the managers that impeached Bill Clinton for sexual deviousness. It's rampant. But Ted Haggard will cry like the rest of them. Oh, like Jimmy Swaggart. Oh, remember Jimmy Swaggart got called a whore? But boobism, they'll still send this guy Ted Haggard money. And Bush, I guess, forgave him for his indiscretion. How the hell do I know? Just because a guy says he's a clergyman doesn't mean he's not a pervert. Or just because he says he's a politician doesn't mean he's a pervert. Or if he's a talk show host and he's a drug addict doesn't mean he's not a drug addict. That's my comment. Irvin, reading a book by Edwin Black called The Transfer Agreement, the dramatic story of the pact between the Third Reich and Jewish Palestine, the Jewish people knew what was coming. What do you think is coming our way? Bill of Feasterville. There were a lot of interesting books written prior, one written by Rabbi Wise of New York, who knew what was happening in Germany, and the United States ignored it. Unless you take a look at the reason that Palestine or Israel was ever created, going back to World War I, you just can't read Edwin Black's book and use it as a source of reference. You must remember that Palestine, known as Israel today, Palestine is Jordan, Transjordan, was given promise to the Israeli under the Balfour Declaration. And Hitler and the Third Reich made every kind of deal he could because he needed the support of the Grand Mufti of Egypt, who was Yasser Arafat's uncle, to support the Third Reich. People don't know that the Arab nations during World War II supported Adolf Hitler. In Black's book, he pacifies the Jewish community, allegedly with a pact between Hitler and the Palestinians. Irv, are you also counting how many Russians were killed by Stalin? He supposedly killed 20 million of his own people during and after World War II. Stalin did purge many Russian people who were followers of Kerensky. If you study the history of the overthrow of the Tsar, Kerensky was a socialist, not a communist. The socialist movement is what overthrew the Tsar. The book is called The 10 Days That Shook the World. In 10 days, the socialists overthrew the Tsar. The communists then killed Kerensky and overthrew the Kerensky. Marx and Lenin used the socialist movement, which cannot be defeated under any circumstances when it comes to ideology, and then overthrew the socialists. So yes, Stalin did kill a lot of Russians. But you must remember, my dear friend, which is something you're short of in history, there were many Russians that supported Adolf Hitler. They were known as White Russians. Red Russia were the communists. The White Russians were the socialists under Kerensky, and those who felt that an alliance with Adolf Hitler would give them a socialist Russia. And so Russians fought in the German army. They were known as White Russians. So if you go back to the history, my dear friend, you will see that Stalin did kill Russians, but they were allies of Adolf Hitler and the Third Reich against the Red Russians or the Communist Russians. Now, I had mentioned before in South River, New Jersey, North Jersey, there are 3 cemeteries up there that are proximity of one another. One is the major Catholic cemetery on the main drag. There is a cemetery, there are 2 cemeteries, one to the left and one to the right as you face the Catholic cemetery. One is a Jewish cemetery, and the other one is a white Russian cemetery where there are Russians buried with swastikas on the tombstones. Between the Catholic cemeteries and the Jewish cemetery and the white Russian cemetery, there's a little white picket fence that you can walk over. Between the Jewish cemetery and the white Russian cemetery, there is a 6-foot barbed wire fence that you cannot walk from the Jewish cemetery into the Russian cemetery, vice versa. These are white Russian fugitives that were brought over to this country by the OSS because they were all scientists, they were engineers that worked for the Hitler regime, and we wanted their technical information, so we brought them over here and lied and faked their birth certificates and faked their residence and faked everything. Ronald Reagan was supposed to go up there and give a speech, and when he realized who he was speaking to in South River, New Jersey, he canceled his speech and his election tour to go up there. Jackie Mason's brother, who is a rabbi, as Jackie Mason is, Jackie Mason's brother has a synagogue there in South River. And when we went to question him, he wouldn't talk about it. He says, we live in peace, we know it's there, but we don't say anything about it. And that's the answer to that question, my friend. The Russians he killed were sympathizers to Nazi Germany. Our next question on our chat room. Irv, do you know the Alaskans are paying the highest price for gas, $2.90 now, almost $1 higher than U.S. So much for Palin the Maverick. Well, allegedly what she had claimed when she was running for office, my dear friend, was that she gives a rebate to every Alaskan that lives in Alaska that compensates for the high cost of gasoline. The Alaskan pipeline is not used, that oil is not used for American refineries. It is going to the nation of Japan. So Alaska buys its refined gasoline from the states here, ergo costing more money in Alaska than it costs here. Now that's one of the things that disturbs me. Of course, by supplying Japan with Alaskan oil, we keep the Japanese loyal to us so they don't buy oil and refined gasoline from Russia. And so the Alaskans import refined gasoline from the United States because the natural oil that they have up there goes to Japan. Irv, what was the difference between a socialist and a communist in the Russian sense? I see them as the same. Are they different? Yes. And one of the reasons that you're confused is because they want you to be confused. The elite and the political system in America and the sociologists do not want you to know the difference between socialism and communism. Socialism is the shared ownership of the means of production and distribution by a society. Communism is what we have in America, which is state capitalism, where the state owns and controls the means of production and distribution. We are moving into a communist country with the government taking ownership of the banks, taking ownership of the automobile companies, because if we're giving the automobile companies money, the government then wants to read it, or own it rather. And so we're moving more to communism. We're not moving towards socialism. If I would do a program on socialism with you, you would vote for socialism in a heartbeat. What you've got now is capitalism and communism. You don't have socialism. The biggest socialist thing in America, you know what it is? I'll tell you. I've mentioned it 20,000 times. The stock market is the biggest form of socialism in the world. Our stock market. Why? because the people own the company's production and means of distribution and share in the profits. That's socialism. Communism is when the government owns the factories and the banks and the means of production, like computers, like the automobile industry, and they control the capital. And maybe the people will then get a few bucks back and then have to pay the taxes to the federal government so that they can retain ownership of the means of production and distribution. So there is a big difference between socialism and communism. Communism is where the state owns the means of production and distribution. Socialism is where the people own the means of distribution and production. For example, there are many companies, when Penn Fruit Company and other companies were going out of business, what they did was they turned the ownership over to the employees. The employees bought stock in the companies. The people that worked in Penn Fruit and some of the other places, Food Fair, owned the stores. They worked harder. They were more loyal. There were very little in union opposition because the unions believed in socialism, where the people would own the means of production and distribution. So they had very little trouble in organizing a union. So what we've got now is evolving into communism, where the state owns the means of production and distribution. We moved into a communist state when the United States government turned over the means of coining and regulating our money to a private bank, so that the state then has to borrow money from the Federal Reserve System to keep this game going. And that's what the name of the game is. Irv, I read another book by Edwin Black called The War on the Weak American Eugenics Movement. Could you comment on what do you think of Black as a writer? I think Black as a writer is interesting, and I find some of his things are plagiarism. But the eugenics movement in America was a movement started by a woman by the name of Margaret Sanger. And Margaret Sanger believed and tried to implement many, many times birth control for various cultures, colors, religions, ideologies, and said that if America is going to be a diverse country, it must have family planning sponsored by the government. So many blacks, so many whites, so many Hispanics, so many Jews, so many Catholics, so many Protestants. And Margaret Sanger's movement of the eugenics study is what Edwin Black is referring to. I forget what year it was, but when they saw the population growth of the United States, the Rockefeller Foundation did a study called Zero Growth Population. What would happen to America if we stopped having babies? What would happen to America? How long would America live and exist if we didn't have babies, but we imported labor of people who have babies? And the Rockefeller Zero Growth Population study was also discredited, as was Margaret Sanger's movement. So if you want to learn where Edwin Black got his information on American eugenics, Google Margaret Sanger and find out what she said and what she wrote about. To our next question on our chat room, and our chat room is available. Once again, my website is www.irvhomer.com. You can email me at evilerv@irvhomer.com. If you have any questions or comments about the technological advance of this type of program, you can check the website of RGH Systems at www.rghsystems.net. Our next question, Irv, isn't the best government a combination of capitalism and socialism, like what FDR wanted? There is no best form of government. There are better and worse forms of government, but no best forms. You cannot have pure capitalism. You can not have pure free enterprise. You can't have pure socialism. You can't have any of the purity of isms. A combination of capitalism and socialism will constantly clash with one another. Either the people will own the means of production and distribution, or you will have the exploitation of capitalism. And what we've got now is the poor, the rich are socialists, the poor are capitalists. Sounds crazy, doesn't it? Sounds crazy. But the rich enjoy all the fruits of communism. They enjoy all the government tax breaks. They allow the corporations to move offshore and not pay any taxes at all. It's a whole list of things. But don't let these people fool you that we're moving into socialism. We are moving into communism. Wouldn't you like to own a piece of the company you work for? Now, people are going to say, well, Irv, the private sector has a vested interest in money. Rich people do not use their own money in business. I forget who it was that played in the movie called OPM. A lot of you folks listening know what OPM is. It's other people's money. And you will see ads in the paper for people known as venture capitalists. They are people who loan you money if you have a good idea and you use their money. Classic example. The owners of WWDB today. I was approached by the owners, as was all the employees of WWDB. This was a private-owned company, Beasley Broadcasting. I made a lot of money. They were smart investors. It was the father and two sons. Mr. Beasley bought a radio station, I think, for $38 million and sold it for $105 million. Yeah, radio stations are unbelievable. And he bought WWDB with no debt service, owed nothing on it. I think he paid $78 million for it to Chuck Schwartz. Well, that was his own money. And so he decided to go public. That is, put the radio station on the stock market, let investors buy into the radio station. Had a good sales record, had a good revenue generating station, had good people on the air, including myself, making money. And so he went on the stock market, and I think he pulled in $105 million in selling stock, which he got his $78 million back, made a gazillion dollars. Well, now he owned the radio station with other people's money. So rich people never use their own money. They go public and let you people own it. Well, wouldn't it make more sense if they'd have come to us as employees and said, the station said was, listen, we want to go public. How much can you buy? Some of the nitwits on DB bought stock in that company because they thought they were going to buy themselves a job. And me with my big mouth when they came to me and said, we're going to go public tomorrow. Would you be in? And it was not insider trading. It was a matter of public record. And I said, yes, I will buy at least $50,000 worth of stock on provision. What? You fire yourself and your two sons. As long as you three people own this station, I ain't buying no stock in it. Well, I could mention the name of those people who bought stock in Beasley Broadcasting and lost a lot of money. Wasn't me. I knew the game they were playing. And so did the late Jim Corey. He went in the horse. Are these people crazy? The way they're running a radio station, they want us to buy stock in it? Jim, I'm not telling you what I did or whether I didn't. Irv, then, did FDR have it wrong? Well, FDR was a little confused, I think, by Stalin in confusing socialism with communism. And so there is a little bit of question there as to whether or not his advisor, Morgenthau, who was the Secretary of Treasury at that time, was confusing the two. Irv, did the Russians not back us up in the Revolutionary War? The Russians were more or less neutral in the war because it wasn't a revolutionary war. We fought a war of independence. Now, I know I'm sticky sometimes in rhetorical answers. Okay? I know but when you use terms, you have to use them correctly. The Civil War that we had was not a civil war. That was a revolutionary war. And I just received an email from a listener today who was a neighbor of my history teacher, Mike Fish, and I thank you for the email. And Mike was a stickler in explaining to his class the difference between a civil war and a revolutionary war. Now, Revolutionary War is to change the government, to revolt against the government, to overthrow that government and replace that government. I have here, which is my Bible, the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. There's nothing in here that talks about changing the government of England. Nothing in there. All they did was in the Declaration of Independence was spell out specific things. This is why we want to be independent, because these are the violations we as colonists are suffering. So we did not revolt against England. We were more than willing to remain part of England if the king would have granted us certain rights. But we did not want to overturn England. We didn't send the Navy to England to overthrow the king. We didn't fly airplanes over to England. We said to the King George, here's a list of our grievances. They're right here in the Constitution of the United States. If you change these things, we'll stay as part of loyal subjects of Great Britain. That's all. However, our Civil War was where the North wanted to overthrow and replace the Confederacy, and the Confederacy wanted to replace the Union. That was a revolution. They were trying to overthrow the governments. And the Union won, and the Confederacy disappeared. That's a revolution. So we are taught historically a bunch of lies. And we live in it. And I thank my dear old teacher, Mike Fish, for educating me and knowing the difference between rhetorical questions, symbolism, and bullshit. When the tax code of the United States says it's voluntary compliance, that's what it means to me. It means I can volunteer to comply. Not to go to jail if I don't volunteer. I have a letter here from former Secretary of Treasury Lloyd Benson. It says the law specifically states voluntary compliance. We as Americans must learn not to allow these bastards to play head games with us, like the bloviators, the politicians, the liars, the deceptors, the history teachers, the college professors. And think for yourselves. Irv Hitler was a socialist, but he controlled the banks and industries. Why wasn't he a communist then? He was a communist. He had an alliance with Stalin. He called himself a socialist, but he was a communist. Russia and Germany were allies. Until two communist ideologies came head to head one trying to take the other one over. So you can call yourself a Catholic, and then you hear, but I'm a good Catholic. I'm a non-practicing Catholic. Hitler was no more a socialist than Stalin was a communist. If you study the ideology of both, you will see the distinct difference. Hitler never referred to himself as a socialist. We did. Irv, are you still in the process of writing your book? You are so interesting and have so much to tell. We have all learned so much from you. Lorraine from Milton, Delaware. Lorraine, that's an extremely complimentary statement, and I'm humbled when I hear people like you say that. And I've started writing it, I've stopped writing it, and when I reread it, I said, nobody's going to believe this. Nobody's going to believe this. And so, if I write a book, will it be self-aggrandizement of myself? Will it be to set an example, a life for somebody else? Is it to leave a legacy? I don't know what the purpose would be of writing a book, and who would read it and who would pay attention to it. The fact of the matter is that in my present will, all my writings, notes, are to be burned at the time of my death. There will be and plaques on the wall and honorariums and things. They're all to be destroyed. I feel that whatever I've done on earth should have been enjoyed, criticized, ridiculed, attacked, analyzed. There'll be enough of the memories without going through the rubble of my life. Now, whether my sons will destroy it or not, I don't know. Whether they'll keep it or not, I don't know. But my wish is to have every memento of Irv Homer except my name destroyed, removed from websites, removed from archives, removed from the broadcasting industry. Because as many Republicans and many Democrats today, who are loyal Democrats and good Democrats and loyal Republicans and good Republicans, are outraged over their political parties, and I've seen the death of their parties, I am outraged as what happened to talk radio and talk television in America. And at the time of my death, which I suppose is rapidly approaching because of my years, I wanted to die when the broadcast industry was something that I honored and respected. And since I don't honor and respect the broadcasting industry today, I don't want my name associated with it. I hope I haven't been too long-winded tonight. I didn't get into half of what I wanted to get into. We'll do it again on Wednesday night with some more interesting information. And just remember, as Paul Harvey said, here, and I am plagiarizing, is where you get the rest of the story. Stay well, loyal listeners. Thank you so much for listening and participating.